Hey guys, welcome. I want to share my story. Listen, I have a lot of testimonies. I have been an entrepreneur. I usually say since 17, but honestly, I've been an entrepreneur since I was like a kid. Okay, I was selling flowers. I realized that I knew how to braid. I don't know how I knew how to do hair. I don't know how I knew how to do braids, but I knew how to braid. And once I discovered I knew how to braid, I definitely started charging. Okay, so entrepreneurship, it was just wired in my DNA. And honestly, I didn't know a lot of entrepreneurs. So the more I think about it, the more I look back at my life, I'm like, okay, it was definitely a God thing, right? And so my walk as a Christian and my journey as an entrepreneur, they are like side by side, right? So I have tons of testimonies about what God has done for me and through me as an entrepreneur. And I believe that He has called me to business consulting to help others walk this journey of entrepreneurship, but through biblical principles, right? So I'll share my wins and I'll share my crazy losses. But listen, when you're in the kingdom, everything is a win, okay? It's either a win or it's a lesson, all right? So today I want to talk about how I went from dressing local people, local women. Actually, I did men and women's clothing, now that I think about it, but mainly women's clothing. But how I went from dressing just people in my community, I don't really want to say local because I don't want to make it seem like, oh, they're just nobodies. No, everybody is a somebody on God's green earth, okay? All of God creation matters, especially every human being. So, how I went from dressing everyday people to dressing celebrities. And it really came, the pivot was with one major decision. And this decision is so key, right? So I started really taking design seriously when I was about, I would say, like 19. Right. So I was self taught when I was 17. And I basically started by just making myself dresses, making myself pieces, and wearing them to parties. And people would ask me, hey, where did you get that? And I'm like, I made it. And so they would say, well, can you make me one? And I'm like, okay, sure. I had no idea what I was doing. And people actually paid me to make their clothes. Yeah. So now, naturally, with any skill, the more you practice, the more you improve, the better you get. And so, as I was creating for myself, creating for others, of course, the skill developed and I grew a business. Okay. Now, I always wanted to be a fashion designer. So, I was living my dream from a very early age. But it was kind of my dream, but it really wasn't my dream. And this is where I'll get into the pivot, right? The pivot that changed everything. So I was dressing all of the local celebrities, right? All of the local celebrities. I was well known in my area, in my neighborhood in New York City, and within the tri state area of New York. And I was known as the seamstress. And people, I would get so annoyed, right? So I opened a shop when I was 21. That's another story for another day, okay? So people would come in the shop and they'd be like, "Oh, dressmaker." So my family's Jamaican. I come from a Jamaican community, and so they would call the seamstress the dressmaker. So they would call me the dressmaker. And that word, that term used to just, used to irk my nerves. I'm like, I'm not a seamstress. I'm not your dressmaker. I'm a designer. And I would always correct them and say, look, I'm a designer. I am not a dressmaker. Now that just, and here's why I'm mentioning this, right? Because in the eyes of my community, anyone who was sewing, anyone who used a sewing machine, you were a tailor or a dressmaker. That was sort of the limitation, and it felt like a limitation to me, which is why I never accepted the title until one day, right? So my shop was in the Westchester, Mount Vernon area of New York, And I would say prophetically, without even realizing I was being prophetic, one day I am moving to the city. One day I'm moving to Manhattan. People would say I was crazy. I mean, I thought I was a little crazy. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but eventually I made the move. And so I changed my environment. That was the first step. I changed my environment, and being in the city, I mean, prime real estate, Fifth Avenue, 27th Street in Midtown Manhattan, okay? Being in being centrally located, it opened me to connect with people who are actually in the fashion industry. You see, when you're in fashion, there's a difference between sewing for everyday people. Absolutely nothing wrong with that because I was making good money, okay? There's a difference between sewing for everyday people. Again, nothing wrong with that. And sewing for the industry, creating for models and magazines and those different types of things. And so making the transition to Manhattan actually opened me to working in the industry, right? I began to meet new people, so on and so forth. So one day it snapped to me. I was like, I'm sitting in my office and I'm like, I'm not taking any pictures anymore and creating them. I only want to make my designs. Y'all hear my son in the background? It's all right. It's real life. So I made the decision that I was only going to make my designs. This was the decision that changed everything. Now, if you know anything about seamstress and about tailors, you bring your picture, people bring their inspiration, they bring the dress that Beyonce had on at the awards, the Rihanna, I want to look like this, I want to look like that. Now, what I would do is I would always take those images and just say, okay, we can, change this, change that, because in my heart of hearts, I'm a designer. So it didn't sit well with me like you bringing this Gucci dress. I'm just like, oh, all right. So I just made the decision that I am only going to make my designs. And so I announced this on social media. And let me tell you, y'all, demons were manifesting from people, okay? It was not pretty. People were upset. And the reason why I'm pointing that out is because two things were happening at the same time. When I made the decision to say, okay, I am only going to make my designs, right? The backlash that I got in the natural, it was people being offended because I went against the norm. I went against what they were used to. I went against what it's supposed to look like. And then on the spiritual side, my decision was me stepping into what I was supposed to step into. My decision was me stepping into another level. And that resistance and the enemy using people to make it seem like I was making a dumb decision or I was doing too much or who do you think you are? I got a lot of that. Who do you think you are? that backlash was to get me to think that I was making the wrong decision. And I point that out because it's important to recognize how the enemy will use people, will use negative comments and just feedback that you don't need, honestly, to make you second guess the pivotal step that is going to propel you into your next season. And that decision absolutely propelled me into my next season. It made the difference between me staying as the local dressmaker, the local seamstress, and being someone that celebrity stylists called. Because in that decision now, I was creating distinction. I was building a brand. How can you build a brand when all of your pieces look like something else or another designer's work? And so I understood that, okay, I needed to make this decision. Yes, it's going to hurt because those customers who they really want that dress that they saw in the magazine, they really want that dress that they saw on the red carpet yesterday. I might lose those customers. It's going to be some short-term discomfort, but in the long run, it's going to be better for my business. And so for you, it may not look like a decision, between being a seamstress or a designer, right? But it may look like making a decision that hurts short term, but is better for the long run. It's better for your brand. And a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of businesses stay small because they're making decisions that make them money now, but don't necessarily help them long term or build longevity or build brand. If you think about fashion right now, if you think about the brands that you love, you're thinking about brands, right? You're thinking about brands that have built a reputation. You're thinking about brands with signature designs. And so me deciding that I was going to focus on building my brand, what eventually happened, right? As I pushed past the noise, pushed past the nonsense, and paid more attention to what was working, what I saw other successful brands do, than the noise of people who weren't spending money with me anyway. Because honestly, most of the backlash came from people who weren't my customers. It was just noise, right? Plenty of the people, some of the people that had an issue, like they eventually, okay, design me something. My best customers over time were people who said, Dominique, I trust you, make me something. I trust your eye, make me something. Because eventually what I did as I started to focus on my own design, my own creativity, I built a signature look. I built a distinctive design that when people saw that, they say, oh, I know her work. Oh, that's Dominique. And then what it caused was other people to promote me. It caused other people to say, oh, that's Dominique's work. Oh, that looks like Dominique, because other people would copy. Oh, that looks like Dominique. And they would tag me, right? And so building brand is a long-term game. It is a long-term game. And those who want a long-term business, not just a hustle, your focus has to be building brand. Your focus has to be what makes you distinct, what's going to set you apart in the marketplace. And so that's what I focused on. I couldn't allow where I came from and the people that didn't understand where I was going and what I was trying to do. I couldn't let that stop me. What I did instead was focus on the brands that were building brand well. I said, okay, I want to be a fashion designer. What are fashion designers doing? That's the information that I focused on. There's someone who said, and I can't remember, I don't remember who said this, but someone said this, right? Success leaves clues. So I was focused on the clues. The people who stay local, the people who stay trapped, the people who who fall for the lie and the trick of keeping it real and not forgetting where you're from and not forgetting your people. The same people throwing that at them, using it to manipulate and using it sometimes unintentionally to destroy that person's work. They don't support you anyway. They're not buying from you anyway. They're not your customer oftentimes. And so again, the pivotal decision, building, the decision that took me from being a seamstress to being a fashion designer that got to dress celebrities like Lizzo and Nicki Minaj and too many others I can't even think to name right now, was that I decided to build brand. I decided to stop just being a seamstress or hustling my design, hustling my skill set, to building a brand that was reputable, building a brand that had a distinct look and feel. And so that attracted the people, that attracted the stylists that were in alignment with the vision that God gave me. And so the takeaway, the takeaway that I want you to take from this, which you probably got it by now, number one is build brand, not just sell a product. What type of experience do you want your customers or your clients to have? Building brand means also building systems. When someone emails you, what's your process? What's your procedure of handling that? What's your process for shipping an order? What's something distinct that will cause people to remember your business and your service? Maybe it's a thank you card. Maybe it's a signature in your email. Maybe it's how you greet people. What are the signatures? What is the type of experience that you want people to have when they encounter your business? What is the look? What is the feel that your brand should have? And is it something that appeals to your target demographic? So if you want to build a long-term business, if you want to build a business that lasts, if you want to build a business that other people promote for you for free 99 just because they love what you do. And get this, there are people who will promote you, who will promote your brand, who will support you and not spend a dollar with you in this day and age of social media. Just because they're proud of what you built, just because they admire what you build. But you see, people do that with brand, not just hustle. And so I had to make that decision. It wasn't fun. And the other takeaway that I want you to take away is that you're going to face resistance. You're going to face resistance. Oh, thank you so much. Someone said this is very good. Praise God. You're going to face resistance. The enemy is fine when you are doing what everyone else is doing. The enemy is fine when you are doing what is going to keep you in just one place, what's going to keep you at one level. But when you decide to make a sacrifice, you see, because breakthrough always comes with a sacrifice. There's no such, I don't even think there's breakthrough is possible without sacrifice. And so you're going to have to sacrifice that hustle mentality. You're going to have to sacrifice fear. You may have to, for you, it might look like sacrificing some friendships, some people that are in your ear telling you what is contrary to the vision that God gave you. Sometimes the sacrifice is dying to yourself. Matter of fact, if you are a kingdom entrepreneur, if you are a follower of Jesus Christ, the sacrifice will first and foremost be you laying down your life and saying, not my will, but your will be done. And so even in fashion, I've had to make that sacrifice. Lord, not my will, but your will be done. Because there are other pivots I had to take that I did not want to. And this change from being the local seamstress to being a fashion designer and building brand. At that time, I was playing, okay? I was going to church, but I was still in the club, all right? But y'all, God was with me and he was ordering my steps. And as I grew in the faith and grew in the Lord, there are other hard steps that I had to take, but I knew that it was God leading me. And so the first sacrifice is you. The second sacrifice is often going to be fear and also deciding what voices you're going to listen to. Oh, Noah. So y'all, I hope that blessed you. I hope that blessed you. And again, God has called me to business consulting, and I'm very, very passionate about seeing people, especially in the body of Christ, launch the businesses that God put in their heart. Listen, if I see another Christian say that, man, I want to do this thing, but I'm afraid. No. There's no reason to be afraid. Well, okay. Let me be fair. There are reasons to be afraid, but we serve a big God. And I can confidently say this. If God has called you to build a business, if he has given you a business idea, the only way it can fail is if you don't build it. Or if you mismanagement, or if mismanagement, or if you mismanage it. Otherwise than that, he's not telling you to build something that's going to fail. And so you already have a leg up, but you have to take advantage of that. You have to step in and do the thing. You have to step in. Listen, we still in January. We still in January. This is still your year. Okay? So this is what I want you to do. I want you to visit 9to5towealth.com and sign up for my biblically based business group coaching. I meet with my group every 2 weeks and I walk with you through the process of building and launching your business. Okay? You don't got to make the mistakes that I made. You can learn from all of the wisdom and all the nuggets and all of the things that God has given me, okay? And more. So, again, that's 9to5towealth.com, right? Sign up today, and I will see you the next time I go live, okay? God bless.